Oh, I hit it again.
Yes, please.
The February 18th, 2025 meeting of the Palm Springs Sustainability Commission is called to order. Director McCoy, would you please take the roll call?
Yes, as soon as I can get my little agenda to render appropriately here on the screen. So I can, okay, there we go. Commissioner Alexander,
Present.
Commissioner Barrett,
Present.
Commissioner Boyd,
Present.
Chair Clark,
Present.
Commissioner Cohn, Commissioner Dearda,
Present.
Commissioner Forster, Commissioner Frick.
Here.
We have regrets from Vice Chair Rotner, and then Commissioner Walker, I believe, is on her way and has let us know.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome all of you to the meeting this evening, the visitors that we have here, the visitors that we have on Zoom online. The first item on the agenda is the acceptance of the agenda. The agenda package was distributed last Thursday, February 13th. Is there any discussion about the agenda amongst the members? Hearing none, the agenda has been accepted. Now we move on to public comment. It's time for members of the public to address the commission on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. Commission values your comments, but it cannot take action on items not listed on the posted agenda. 3 minutes are allowed for each speaker. Is there anyone here in the room who would like to make public comment? We have several.
Okay, I didn't see whose hand went first. I'm gonna go around the room. Or did you go first? Okay. No, I think. Okay, cool. Go ahead.
Okay,
I was
I'll
just
get it
gonna
out of the way.
go around the room this
Sure.
way.
Thanks.
And I'll have your 3 minutes here, so you can just kind of keep an eye on yourself.
Okay, great. Okay. Gotcha. Okay, good to go.
Awesome.
All right. Good evening, commissioners, friends, neighbors, and fellow dedicated city volunteers. You're probably used to hearing me talk about smoke-free Palm Springs, which of course I care a lot about, but I'm going to switch it up tonight. I'm going to be talking about groundwater protection. So this is kind of an FYI, just to let you know. I know you are a well-informed group, so some of this you may already be aware of, but it's concerning to some of us in the community. So I came here to raise a red flag. I know it's orange. It's the best I could do on a short notice about groundwater protection. So we have north of the 10 freeway, west of Indian Canyon, several facilities already, some more coming. We're talking about another facility which is going to be a sizable one, a distribution logistics center that the Planning Commission and the City Council have already approved. And all of the new projects are, according to planning and engineering, are required to agree to connect to sewer system when it's available. In the meantime, they're allowed to operate with a batch system, which is an industrial form of a septic system. And the troubling part is there's a new facility nearby that has been built by Mission Springs Water District right next to the Amazon plant. They're going to connect to it. However, that's not inside the city limits, and there are no plans or commitments to bring that sewer line across Indian Canyon over to those facilities. This is concerning because in our Coachella Valley, we have the most rapid percolation rate type of soil you can have, which is sand. So these leach liquefied raw sewage, these batch plants, into the ground and effectively into our water supply, which of course is the water supply I'm talking about is what we drink, cook, clean, and everything with. In addition to that, there is plans that have been brought back to life to have a mega distribution logistics center off of Tipton Road over near the 10 between the 111 and the 10 freeway. And it's going to be a mega plant with proposed about 1,000 employees. Keep in mind, this is right next to our imported water percolation ponds operated by Desert Water Agency. Once again, we're talking about there are no sewer systems available in there. In years to come, there will be eventually a little distance away, but quite a distance, essentially. So these are also going to be running on batch systems, which means all these thousands of employees, there's no delicate way to put this, are going to be going to the bathroom in our water supply every day. Off of Garnett, how am I doing? Did I already go over? Okay, we'll cut it there. You guys get the picture. Thanks, friends, for listening. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yep. Oh, you go.
We're set.
It's orange.
It's perfect.
It's perfect. I like it.
3 minutes stopwatch time.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna have to go fast.
You're good.
Okay. Good evening, commissioners and everyone else. My name is Linda Talley and I'm here representing the Desert Wildlife Center, which will be opening up very soon up in, out in Indio. We are opening up at where the Wild Bird Center used to be. And we are finishing up the renovations and bringing the enclosures up to code. And we are very excited about this because there is no place in the Coachella Valley right now that will take in injured wildlife and rehab it and return it to the wild. I'm here representing with my committee members here, and we're representing a group. We formed a group on how to make the environment more wildlife friendly and through the policies and practices at the city level. We will be talking about a multitude of issues here, but the one I want to talk about tonight is the most critical issue, and that is how pesticides are affecting wildlife and how we eliminate the pesticides in our environment. These are some statistics. This is my red flag here. Some statistics that may surprise you because they surprised me. The Center for Biological Diversity says that 70% of the wildlife tested here in California have been exposed to dangerous pesticides. 90% of the tested mountain lions, 88% of tested bobcats, 83% of coyotes, and 92% of owls and hawks all have dangerous toxic levels of pesticides in their systems. So U.S. Fish and Wildlife estimates that 76 million birds are killed by pesticides every year. This is all over the United States. California has been a leader in banning pesticides, but it still hasn't been enough. They have banned first and second generation pesticides, but there are exceptions to those bans. And there are many more pesticides that are poison to wildlife. And the pesticide control industry is developing many more. There's lots in the works. So we have a big problem here on how to get rid of these pesticides. We are here tonight to encourage you and ask you to ban the poisons on city properties like the cities of Malibu, Irvine, and Ojai have done, and especially in the parks. Not only do these pesticides impact our wildlife, but they also impact humans and our companion animals too, and children. Okay. So there are other solutions here. We can repel using natural substance. We can expel using exclusion methods by covering up the holes in our houses, and we can deter by cleaning up our yards and getting rid of the food, water, and shelter sources. So that's what we want to do. We want to come back and we're hoping we can do a bigger, longer presentation to you. And thank you very much for your attention. Please.
Thank you. That's all the comments.
Yes, this is gonna be short. I didn't come here to make public comment. I came here to support our folks from Desert Wildlife Center. But I just wanted to clarify a couple of things with regard to the first public comment and the leach fields and the involvement of Desert Water. I am Paul Ortega. I'm president of the board of Desert Water Agency. this is an issue, of course, that we are concerned about. It is actually an issue that every water agency in the Coachella Valley is worried about, or concerned about, I should say, the potential for contamination of the aquifer. But I do want to clarify that that facility on Tipton Road is not operated by Desert Water Agency. It is operated by the Coachella Valley Water District. The facility that we operate is in the Mission Springs Basin, or the Mission Creek Basin, which is north of the Interstate 10 and located off of 62. But yes, this is a concern of ours. It's a concern, as I said, for every water agency in the Coachella Valley. And it is something that we are actively looking into along with our other member water agencies. So thank you.
Do we have another? You want to come up?
so.
Okay, come on down.
Hi, Commissioners. Tamara Hedges. I'm a Palm Springs resident and I am on the board of directors for, we're now called Greater Palm Springs Animal Allies. We run the Palm Springs Animal Shelter, as well as the Desert Wildlife Center, and soon to be running the Coachella, well, it'll be a clinic for all of Coachella Valley in Desert Hot Springs. But tonight we're focused on wildlife, and the reason we wanted to talk to the Sustainability Commission is because now that we've got involved with wildlife, we realize how much we humans do to injure and even kill wildlife in our community, and we can stop this. Rodenticides and pesticides are used wildly. There's other cities, as Linda Talley said, that have banned the use completely of these by their cities, and we can do it too. Right? We can be a leader like we are in so many other things here in Palm Springs. We can do right by our wildlife. And now that I'm involved in this and I've gone to a lot of meetings about wildlife, I realize, oh my gosh, 80% of the patients that come to the rehab centers are injured or made sick by rodenticides, trimming our trees at the wrong time, lots of other stupid things we humans do thinking. So I hope we can come back and get on your agenda and present more. And one final thing, we did look around at your trash bins and dumpster bins. They are wide open, which is an invitation for lots of critters to come into your bins, which then leads to having them come closer and maybe into your buildings. So we'll be working on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Do we have any public comments from online this evening? Okay, hearing none, I think we're happy.
Thank you all for the public comments. And now we'll move on to the presentation. Presentation this evening by Specialist Wheelers, one that we had in the January meeting of the Climate Action Subcommittee meeting. And it was well received and there's a lot of interesting information. So we requested that Specialist Wheeler make the presentation here or at one of the commission meetings. So we'll schedule it for the meeting tonight.
Hello, everyone. So we'll be talking about idling and idle reduction measures. So what is idling? It's keeping a vehicle's engine running while not in motion. So where do we typically see idling? That's going to be traffic lights, drive-throughs, passenger pickups. So think schools, hospitals, airports, and in extreme weather conditions when it's really cold or really hot. So what's the problem with that? So first is the environmental impact, so increase greenhouse gas emissions. Second is the health risk, so air pollution, linking it to respiratory illnesses. And then third is economic costs. You're wasting fuel and it's higher expenses for drivers. So some myth busting.
Myth busting.
in the past, we've been told that idling your car to warm it up, the engine is good, which years ago it was good, but now since technology has gotten better, you can just turn it on and it's better to, get running than it is to just sit and idle it and warm it up. The other second myth is idling your engine for just a few minutes won't harm the environment. Idling for just 10 minutes releases 1 pound of harmful carbon dioxide. And then the third myth, shutting off and restarting my engine is harmful. In the past, that was true, but now with today's technology, it isn't true. So some quick facts. Idling for more than 10 seconds uses more fuel and produces more emissions that contribute to smog and climate change than stopping and restarting your engine does. Researchers estimate that idling from heavy duty and light duty vehicles combined wastes about 6 billion gas and fuel annually. And about half of that is attributed to personal vehicles. Personal vehicles generate around 30 million tons of CO2 every year just by idling. And there are roughly 250 million personal vehicles in the US. Eliminating the unnecessarily idling of personal vehicles would be the same as taking 5 million vehicles off the road.
Wow.
So here's some different idling reduction measures. So simply turning off the engine, of course, encouraging drivers to turn off the engine when they're idling for more than a specific amount of time. Raising awareness about the impacts of idling on the environment and health, and obviously wasting your money. And then encouraging alternative practices such as walking, cycling, public transportation. Other measures are technological advancements. We do have the automatic on and off auto start and stop systems in some of the newer cars today. And then fleet management, businesses encouraging, people that drive their cars to not idle. So some different local, state, and federal areas have adopted laws and regulations to limit idling. So we typically see time limits, most limited to no more than 3 to 5 minutes. And then there's exemptions for certain vehicles such as emergency buses and in extreme weather. We also see idle-free zones, so designated areas where where idling is restricted or prohibited or discouraged. And there's usually signs such as these placed in these areas. And so here's some examples. You typically see them schools, sometimes business districts, shopping areas, hospitals and medical centers where people have like compromised lungs and different things like that, residential neighborhoods, and sometimes even airports. So here's just a few examples. In the state of California, they actually prohibit heavy duty vehicles over 10,000 pounds or more from idling for more than 5 minutes. And then there is statewide regulations on school bus idling and other idling near public and private schools, whether or not there's class in session. I did see that Palm Desert prohibits commercial idling in residential areas for longer than 15 minutes. Salt Lake City, where I worked, you couldn't idle for more than 2 minutes, and just kind of similar different cities and states around that.
All right.
And so what has been identified so far, so in our climate action roadmap from 2021, we actually identified, citywide reducing idling. In our 2016 master plan, we had identified adopted no idling policy for city fleet by 2018. And then in that same master plan, we wanted to extend it to commercial vehicles by 2020. So I have some resources attached if anybody wants a presentation afterward. But any questions or things you would like to discuss?
Any questions? Session.
Thanks, that was very informative. I just have a quick question. Do we have any idea how big of impact it's having in the city of Palm Springs?
I don't think we haven't really, it doesn't necessarily show up all the time in our air quality studies.
No, we don't have particular quantitative metrics on this currently. One of the things that Christian kind of alluded to, I think we do tend to see more of this in the hot weather, as people are waiting in
work vehicles or personal vehicles or taking breaks in vehicles when it's hot outside. So we may have, like, I think we have a lower than average propensity for commercial vehicle idling because we don't see a lot of like backed up commercial, loading and unloading and stuff like that, but we may have a higher than average idling propensity due to weather conditions, so it balances out.
So how would you kind of control this? I noticed you had out there to have no idling and there's a fine, but how would the city of Palm Springs? Because it seems, I mean, obviously, an officer can walk up and hear a car running, but the officers have a lot of things to do.
Yeah, so I think really here, starting with education first would be a good first step, because I think a lot of people aren't aware. It does take a lot of capacity to do enforcing. Like when I worked for Salt Lake City, it was only 2 minutes, so it wasn't that much time, but their parking department handled it, and they were timing people. It is a extra kind of amount of work that you have to dedicate to it, but I think a little bit the difference is they are in like a basin, so you could really feel when people are idling. So I don't know if people will notice it as much here comparatively with like the dust and things. So I think it really just starting with awareness first would probably be the first step.
See a hand here, and then I see a hand here, and then I see a hand here. Okay. And then back to here. Okay, so we're gonna go Barrett, Walker, Clark, Boyd.
I think it would be interesting to try to do a sort of, at least informal survey of how much this is happening. For example, spending some time going and monitoring some of the schools where everybody's waiting. How many people are sitting in there with their cars running? I know some schools, I've been buying on my bikes when there's lots of people waiting. So it would be helpful for us to be able to do something to check that out and make it more visible as an issue.
Thank you.
I think how can we practice this before we preach it to the public? For example, our shredding events will have a long line, and that's one of the area where we can put it in practice and then try to educate the community. Let's say, hey, we tried this one, it's working. Or do we have to change the way we are handling things to prevent that? And I think then that trickles down to all the parades that happens with a lot of vehicles and car shows out here especially. So I think those are the key areas we can handle because they're happening once a year, twice a year. But there is a lot of concentration where we can focus on a lot of people at the same time.
You and Commissioner Barrett are of similar minds on the parades and car shows issue. I'm gonna go, unless, do you have something to build, or I think maybe we'll keep going in our rotation and then we'll come back, okay. Unless we wanna use our new and sames here, and then we can start getting kind of crazy, but we'll go ahead and go for now over to commissioners.
Just want to comment that when we did have a presentation in the subcommittee meeting, there was some discussion about taking some of this information and doing public service announcements, particularly during Earth Month. So that might be an easy way to start education rather quickly. And we also did talk about the shredding event and the buying a couple of cars there. And we recognize there's issues there as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just Commissioner Walker, that was a great point. That was the point I wanted to sort of raise. It's again, just sort of starting with some of our things, I think sort of similar and sort of tapping into the events as well as also a way to sort of limit, but also educate. I mean, I'm gonna do a plug for the waste subcommittee with the milk cartons and say, even now with milk cartons, you can recycle. I didn't know that. And I learned that at the waste subcommittee, and I feel like tonight I learned a lot. So I think public education actually could be very useful.
Again, putting more work on that side. The
I don't know who you're talking to. No one gets here.
Staff side of the table. Considering finding some way to incorporate this and talking about the parades. I mean, because the parades have classic cars because they look good, but they also exude a lot of exhaust. So making it a demonstration.
I might have missed this on the previous slide, but is there ordinance in Palm Springs prohibiting idling right now?
No.
So there isn't, so we're just talking about educational.
Yeah,
process.
just different things that they're doing around the state, around the country.
So there's not a goal to put an ordinance on the front.
Not specifically an ordinance per se.
No, yeah, so I think there were goals that Christian showed in the chart about policies that we wanted to adopt internally, potentially looking at commercial idling and expanding the statewide prohibition or like making sure we're following up on the statewide prohibition on heavy duty, which the state enforces, gets a little messy, but
Well, we are allowed to enforce the
Oh,
state one.
thank you. That's gonna be a question I was gonna skip over because I know the answer, but thank you for actually knowing the answer. That's great. There has been some conversation in the context of some of the larger commercial developments coming to Palm Springs from the council side about wanting to make sure we are monitoring and making sure that we are not seeing a lot of excessive idling of heavier duty vehicles due to those new facilities. So that's also something I think it's hard for us to say what that's gonna look like yet because we don't have them yet. I mean, obviously, we can look to some other areas and see how that's been impacting. But getting some more public education out, getting a better sense of where we think our biggest problem areas might be, if this is something that is majorly contributing to air pollution concerns here, would give us a good foundation for continuing to address that going forward. So I'd say it's a medium priority. It kind of fits in our second of our 3 eggs, but definitely something that ties into all our other work.
Just was wondering, city council or planning commission, when it comes to approving a business that has drive-through, for example, do they take that into consideration? How much you go into that?
Like, oh, you did that one. Yes, so that is part of, oops, sorry, we have.
Oh, yeah, I can do it.
Thank you. So that is something that's part of the CEQA analysis or California Environmental Quality Act analysis. They do have standard models that are used statewide to impute kind of assumptions around air quality impacts. So those models are kind of consistent across the state. It's kind of hard to model all of these things specifically and in real time, so it's kind of back of the envelope sort of stuff. So it is looked at, it's normally looked at through the proxy of like traffic impacts, and then there's kind of imputed greenhouse gas and air pollution models that happen on the back of that. I'm not a CEQA expert, so that's about as much as I can tell you, but I know that it is analyzed to some level of detail. Yes.
So we have a statewide policy, will that exclude like police departments, but medics, ambulances, all those things? Because most of the time, those vehicles have to be idling while they're handling situations.
Yes, I think for the most part, and it's really only focused at heavy duty. I think it just depends on if they use heavy duty vehicles, yeah.
Any comments? Any other comments or questions? Thank you.
This is a new program and I don't know how to use computer good, so I don't know how to exit this program. Other. Okay.
Next item on the agenda is meeting minutes. Do we have any this
Nope.
evening?
Sorry.
Meeting minutes subject to comment at future meeting.
That's true.
We're still working on it. Great, thank you. And the next item then is chair's comments. I just have a few things that I wanted to mention, basically relating to topics that have been discussed at the recent city council meetings. At the January 23rd council meeting, there was a presentation about the convention center update, and there was quite a bit of discussion about enhancing walkability around the convention center and between the convention center and downtown, which is something that we've been talking about in our climate action subcommittee as a way of getting people to walk rather than drive everywhere they go, particularly downtown. So it's encouraging to hear the interest in the discussion about that. The estimated costs of the convention center renovation didn't include anything about walkability, but it's something that was recognized. And there's that January 23rd meeting, there was also discussion and approval of the airport conceptual development plan. And they did show that there had been a change in the proposed rental car center, changing it from 5 stories to 3, and then potentially adding another facility in a different location of the airport as the situation and demand changed. And at the February 13th city council meeting, there was an update on the downtown parking study. I think that had been reported in the Post, but it's interesting to watch if you didn't see it. And there was also a presentation on the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And there's a lot of potential interaction between sustainability and Parks and Recreation outlined in the master plan. So that's something that's worth watching as well, if you haven't gotten any information on it before. Then finally, you recall at our last meeting, we did a ranking of the 12 sustainability related Measure J projects that had been proposed for community funding. And the Measure J Commission has gone through and ranked all 52. So if you're interested in seeing how the ranking goes, you can go to the city website. And if you drill down through boards and commissions to the Measure J Oversight Commission, you'll find in their January 30th special meeting a link to the final results of the ranking from all the members of the Measure J Commission. And that's all I have. Any comments or questions? Okay. We move on to subcommittee reports, and I thought I might wing it with waste reduction. Since Vice Chair Rottenberger is not here, I'm not going to try. He'll be sending out his report relatively soon, I'm sure. But we did have a lot of good discussion with Palm Springs Disposal. The audits that they're doing and the results that they're getting on that is showing actually that people are doing a pretty good job with recycling. And the next is standing subcommittee on climate action. Sustainability specialist Wheeler is drafting a request for proposal for support on the Caltrans heat and shade study. The RFP will be for consultants, management, transportation modeling, and urban design, and we're looking forward to that getting started relatively soon. And we did change the time of our climate action subcommittee meetings. They'll still be on the second Wednesday of the month, but they'll be at 1 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. And we also discussed at quite a bit of length the energy efficient upgrade ordinance. I won't say anything about our discussion because that's a presentation under old business this evening. But we, after the discussion at the subcommittee meeting, we recommended that the presentation be brought to the full commission. So we'll be here again in a few minutes. That's all I have on climate action. Any comments or questions? Next is ad hoc subcommittee on bird strikes.
Very short again, we are finalizing our recommendations.
The next is ad hoc subcommittee on leaf blowers. So take a stab at that. We just had a 20-minute meeting before this meeting to talk about some of our next actions. One of the things that we're going to do, and then the subcommittee is myself, Commissioner Cohn and Commissioner Frick. One of the things that we're going to do is a trial. See those signs over there? Those are used in Sunrise Park to advertise upcoming neighborhood meetings. Well, we're going to use the same signboards, but we're going to put on them signs that basically say gas powered leaf blowers are prohibited, and they're going to be spread around the neighborhood. So residents will see that, we'll remind them, and also gardeners will see them. So we're hoping that that's a quick way of reminding people about the prohibition of leaf blowers. We're going to do a couple of other things in conjunction with staff. One is that we're going to make presentations about the prohibition at 1 PS meetings, provide more information to the people, and basically remind homeowners about it. And We're also going to be, talking to code compliance about, potential surveillance, to see if they can catch people in the act using gas or heat blowers, which is generally very difficult to do. So that's summary from that subcommittee. The next is ad hoc subcommittee on Measure J projects. Either of the members who are present able to make a summary of what you did at your meeting.
That's two of us.
I can say really quickly, we met last week, we came up with a number of ideas, but we had a number of questions that I think we needed to flesh through before we made next steps. So, yeah, we're gonna be following up with,
And I think part of it is we needed input. of
yeah,
staff.
so. Stay tuned.
I think you got off to a good start, so thank you.
Can I ask a quick question? Sure. On the leaf blowers for the signage, I think that's a great idea. Is there gonna be a phone number on there for reporting? Cause I'm just thinking if I were in a neighborhood and I saw something, just saying, potentially, if there was a number that was easily made code compliance. Is that gonna be on there?
So Benito's gonna be in charge of our mock-ups for the signs, based on some language suggestions from the ad hoc subcommittee. We can try to either put it in the QR code or squeeze a phone number on there. So we will play around with I think the kind of key call to action that the subcommittee's been focused on is the kind of building that awareness loop and to get them to a place to get more information, which could include a place to do reporting. So we will look at the best way to do that.
And I'm not suggesting that it should, I just was curious if it.
Yeah. It wasn't the original plan, but it is something that I can see where someone might kind of have that thought loop. So we can at least make sure it's in the landing page where we're directing people through a QR code. If that makes sense.
I think it was providing the website though for the city so they could see the ordinance.
And depending on the results, we'll probably try to do this in other neighborhoods as well. Any other comments or questions on the subcommittee reports? Hearing none, can we move to the director's report?
Okay, I'm gonna be pretty brief. You've probably noticed as you've been reading our reports, we've really kind of gotten into a series of rhythms with some of the work that you've just kind of been hearing about again and again. So a lot of the things that we used to kind of squeeze into the report, you just hear about at this meeting. Obviously, if there's ever any topics that people want to hear more about, always feel free to ask either now or other times. Just a couple things I wanted to highlight. One is you will start to notice that we are really entering a very heavy event season for our team. So we actually had a really fun and sobering chat in our team weekly this morning, looking at how basically from March 15th through mid-May, we're pretty much booked every weekend. So this is a time for commissioners to join us and please participate in our number of great events that we're going to be having. So please talk to Benito to make sure you get registered so you're getting in the loop for the specific volunteer stuff. Just a few events to kind of wet your whistle. So we're doing everything from workshop with young people on helping them help us clean up in public spaces at events or other things like that. 1PS Picnic is coming up. A number of you participated in that last year. We will have the April shredding event. We'll be back at the farmers market. And then we also will be doing events for Earth Day, and we also are going to be doing an Arbor Day planting, probably. So I would wait for final confirmation from us on exactly where that's happening and when, but it looks quite likely we're going to be doing an Arbor Day event with the Parks Department. So bringing back that tradition. So we will have a lot more to share, obviously, in the March meeting, and we'll share some things in the interim as well. But wanted folks to just start to think about maybe donating one Saturday to us so that I can send these kids home for at least one Saturday. So, so start thinking about when you're available and what kinds of events you might like to participate in. If you've helped out with us at events before, you'll know that you get a nice yellow shirt, you get some nice water bottles if you don't have one already, and you mostly just have to pick stuff up from one place and put it in another place and do that over and over. So relatively straightforward, or just be real friendly to strangers. So those are some things that we're really tracking toward. Christian, I don't know if you wanted to give just like a short summary of where we're at on the tree ordinance, or you prefer I do it. I'll turn it over to you to do that.
Yeah, so we're just kind of fleshing out some final parts, like looking where it's gonna be in the municipal code. And then we're also getting some internal and external sign offs on it, so hopefully it'll be for first reading in March. But that's what we're looking for, but we will see.
And obviously the commission will see any text before that goes to the council, and as well the tribal council and everybody who's implicated there. So yeah, so that's where we're kind of tracking on that. Juliet is going to be going on a lovely multi-week family trip. So you will not see her for a little while. So anything related to buildings comes to me and to Ben. So you may not see her at our next meeting, but she will be back very soon. And I think those are the main things I wanted to mention. It is budget season for us, so we're working on figuring out what that picture looks like for next year. And we'll bring back, once we have a sense of that, we'll bring that back probably at the May meeting, I think is usually when I try to talk about budgets in May. Can I answer any questions for anyone or dive into any particular topics that I didn't cover? Yes,
I just want to bring back in the out of date signs issue.
can you remind me which issue?
The issues, the signs in the parks that are faded.
Oh, yes, thank you.
and-
Yeah,
and-
the Ruth Hardy ones,
yeah.
yeah.
And
Thank you.
I know you don't need more tasks, but it's
Thank you for the reminder.
Ruth Hardy is the easiest
Yeah.
place to see it.
Yep, nope, I know exactly which ones you're talking about, as that is also my closest part. Okay, thank you.
You know, if you could give me some way to make the sign disappear when I'm walking, that's.
You got a screwdriver? I didn't say that.
Cover of darkness.
Yeah. Yeah, well, whatever I don't know doesn't hurt me. I'm just kidding. I
Yeah.
did not say that. Okay, so thank you for the reminder. Anything else? Okay, great.
Thank you, Director McCloy. Thank you, Director McCloy. The next item on the agenda is old business, and the first item there is the foodware ordinance. McCloy.
Alrighty. So, you all did receive a little brief, a couple of pages on this in your packets. I'm trying really hard to be so viciously brief with some of this. So if at any point you would like more information and to go back to the voluminous pages that you used to see, let me know. Always happy to do that. But I wanted to give you a quick update on where we are with updating the foodware ordinance to include, well, this is like, it's like approving a negative thing. It's, we want to include expanded polystyrene coolers that are used primarily for food in the group of things that is prohibited from sale. So bring in something that you can't do anymore, if that makes sense. So what are we looking to prohibit? Because actually, fun fact, most coolers, even the durable, you know, the big Igloo ones or whatever brand name you choose, they have expanded polystyrene inside the durable thing. We are not coming for those at this time. What has been requested, what was requested by council members during the last term, was that we look at these particular coolers, which are really intended to be once or maybe twice used, that are often sold in the same places that you would buy something related to food, that are the unencapsulated expanded polystyrene coolers. Need a better way to say that, but these are the ones that are kind of, they really, you know, they look and feel like a styrofoam product. And so I think we have heard feedback from council members and from the community that it feels a little bit like, it's like, okay, so we can't buy the plates, why can we still buy that? I think probably what was intended initially is that these do sometimes have a broader non-food related use, but really what these are normally used for is something related to food. And so in research that Vice Chair Watner actually led last year, we identified a number of cities that those cities that do prohibit the sale of these products generally also do prohibit the sale of these types of coolers at the same time. They're usually sold at the same grocery store, same aisle, etc. So a number of cities do prohibit this, including Pasadena, San Francisco, Berkeley, etc. A number of the places that prohibit the sale also do this as well. But our ordinance under our legal department's review, because we were also like, does this kind of prohibit it? Turns out it doesn't. It's relatively specific as to what counts as foodware and what doesn't. So the draft that you've seen does two things really. So it adds a section into our definitions, which clarifies and attempts to specify the item that actually would be prohibited. Because again, we want to make sure we're not prohibiting those more durable products that are intended to be used over and over. We're really looking to prohibit those disposable products that really don't have a way to be reused or meaningfully recycled. So the definition, I believe, is taken directly from Pasadena's definition, because one great way to write a law is use a law that somebody already said was legal and do it again. And then the prohibition, really kind of the action section, would then go under the same part of the code that prohibits the sale of existing expanded polystyrene or styrofoam products. And so it adds a specific additional line, which the other ones that we reviewed also did. Everything else in that ordinance is kind of standard verbiage, the whereas statements at the beginning, which kind of are the findings, which prove why we should do this, and then kind of the CEQA stuff at the end. All of those are fairly standard. And so basically what happens now, so this subcommittee or this commission, my apologies, gets to review and vote on that draft. So if folks are happy with the draft, if they're happy with the concept, you can review and vote to make a recommendation to the city council that they consider this item in the future. If there's any changes or et cetera, we do generally go back to our legal department folks and have them do a final review before it is then sent to the council. If there would be any material changes, obviously we bring it back. We're not anticipating that there would be. And then it would return to the city council to go through their discussion process for reading and approval. And with that, I will open it up to questions before we go into discussion. So maybe let's start with any clarifying questions that anyone might have. Okay, hearing no clarifying questions, do we want to move to discussion?
We are going to take a vote.
Yes, if you want to take a vote,
Yes.
you are able to take a vote. Okay, no discussion. Okay, chair, go to town.
So they will ask for a motion to make the change to the ordinance as described, a motion in a second, and then maybe we'll have some discussion.
Sure.
If not, we can vote.
Okay.
So there's a motion, is there a motion to incorporate this change into the
Can I make
ordinance?
a motion?
Thank you. Second. Is there any additional discussion? Second, would be to take a vote. Why don't we just do it by raising hands?
Sure, that works.
So all in favor of the motion to incorporate this change in the ordinance, please raise your hand. Looks like
Everybody.
Yes, yeah, great.
we have 8 people.
Okay. And no secret abstentions that I didn't count or no's. Okay, great, that was easy. I will keep everyone posted. I'm anticipating sometime in the spring this would be able to go back. But we'll get this over to our legal team for that final routing and then we'll take it forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next item under old business is the energy efficient upgrade ordinance. Yeah,
That's me. So I think the last time we talked about the ordinance, we were mentioned that LP and I were going to be talking and doing stakeholder engagement. And from that stakeholder engagement, we realized that the concerns that were coming from the stakeholders was very similar to what you guys were saying. And those concerns were, one, the complexity. You guys have seen the ordinance. You probably know how complex it is. And then the other concern is the cost. And so I think when LP and I were reflecting on this ordinance, we recognized that this is a big concern, the complexity and the cost. And so we've decided to kind of change the goals in a way or add to the goals of this ordinance. And so the original goals were these, to maximize carbon reduction, maximize cost savings, and maximize participation. And we realized through the feedback that we were receiving that we wanted to add more to this goal. And so we want so we are working on updating the ordinance to reflect these goals and to reflect that feedback. And so that's the fun part that we're doing. And so once we are able to be able to update the ordinance to reflect these goals and the concerns that we have, this is gonna be very repetitive, the next steps. But we're gonna bring it back to you guys, and you guys are going to provide feedback on that and we're gonna be making updates based on your feedbacks. And then we're gonna bring that ordinance to the city council as an informational item, so they're not voting on this. And then receiving their feedback as well, making appropriate changes. And then we're bringing back the ordinance to the tribal planning commission and the council and receiving their feedback as well on the ordinance. And then we're gonna bring that updated ordinance to the city council to vote. And we're anticipating bringing this updated ordinance to the city council in the summer, but again, that will change depending on how long the other steps take. And I know that I first want to say thank you for your patience on this ordinance. It's been a while since we've talked about the ordinance. But I know that we are not meeting our goals of bringing this ordinance to the city council in February, so this month. But I think that the additional time, being able to update the ordinance will give us a more well-rounded ordinance to bring to the city council that hopes that would be easier to implement on all parties. So that is kind of the update that we have for the ordinance. You know, we're still chugging along, making the appropriate updates for it, so it can be very presentable to the city council and to everyone involved. So, yeah. Any questions? Comments?
This is
I know it's coming.
this is a very important issue, but it's really hard to do, so I appreciate all the work you're putting into it, and it's a shame we can't somehow flip it quicker, but it's really difficult.
Yes. But I appreciate everyone's feedback on it, and it's very important when it comes to this ordinance. Thank you.
Comment, so I really like that how we mentioned, like, we wanna minimize the upfront costs for people. So one of the organization I met at the summit, energy summit, is Grid Alternative, how they are helping people to. So can we approach nonprofits like them or some other nonprofits that are already involved somehow in energy and ask them, hey guys, can you help us with this, because we wanna help our community, but we wanna minimize that upfront cost. So is there any way we can collaborate and minimize that upfront cost, where you come in and teach people and we can help each other?
Yes, stay tuned. Short answer is yes. But yeah, but I appreciate that suggestion. There are a number of programs that have been stood up throughout the state. Grid Alternatives has a great record, particularly in solar and storage, of doing this for a number of years, including in the Valley. So wanting to make sure that we really have our full complement of support resources ready.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, thank you very much. Hearing none, we'll move on to the final item on the agenda, which is commissioner comments and large agenda items. Go around the table as we normally do. If anybody has any comments or suggestions for future meeting, please go ahead. Commissioner Alexander.
Well, the only thing I have is we talked about the issue on the garbage fee. I just want to keep that.
And so I know that was something that was addressed at a Scour meeting that I wasn't part of. So maybe we can make sure you get that meeting report.
Okay.
And we can follow up offline to see if there's additional thoughts that you had or how you think we should best share that information from your perspective. So I want to say that was the January meeting of Scour that was discussed. So we'll make sure that I'll send that directly to you so you can see it.
All right, and I'll check the report that we got January.
Yeah,
See what's in there.
I think that was them, because that was the month I wasn't there. So I think that was good. Yeah.
Thank you. Actually, I don't have a name. Commissioner Boyd.
I just have something to say. I'm sorry. The issues brought forth by the public today fit in very well with what we have originally was the Prescott Preserve request from quite some time back about rodenticides. So I think that is something we need to try to find some way to move forward with in some way.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Cohen. Commissioner Walker.
Yes, two things. Received a public comment about the meeting Zoom link that they have to go every month and sign up for the meeting to receive the link. But they requested if they can have one link where they can sign up and have the link in their calendar so they can use the same link.
We will follow up on that technically offline, and then we will make sure that in our next meeting, we announce to the public, the easiest way for them to do that.
The second one is like about the pesticides and rodenticides, and I think that clearly falls under, okay, if we are telling not to use pesticides, how are we complementing it? Natural alternatives, and like people can use compost instead to repel so many things. So I think that falls clearly under SB 1383 because we will have a lot of compost and we have to buy back. And is there any way we can connect them together in the future meetings at some point?
Good question. Let's revisit it. I will take the suggestion.
Oh, but we will be having our planning meeting this Thursday, as we normally do, with myself and Vice Chair Rodner and staff, this is the agenda for this meeting. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn? The next meeting will be on March 18th at 5:30 p.m. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I second.
Okay, thank you all. That was a wave. I don't know if you caught it.